The Bear Essentials podcast gives older bears a place to gather for real talk regarding topics and issues that they can relate to. Here at The Bear Essentials, we aren't just having conversations. We are looking to provide actionable intelligence through real-life experience and expertise of our guests. Our mission is to build a strong community that elevates and motivates people to go beyond their limiting beliefs by helping them realize that getting older is not an excuse to hibernate on their goals, but a reason to work harder.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Charles Wallace. Today's guest is a former combat veteran who served in the U.S. Marine Corps. He's also a former corporate professional, and he's the co-founder of the fastest growing barbecue brand in America, Pit BBQ. His name is Greg Fischer. In this interview, we talk about his military career, his combat experience. We talk a little bit about his professional corporate career and the way he went about starting Pit BBQ. Greg lays out a very mature, methodical way of how this began. And I think the things he talks about will absolutely help people in a very positive way. Greg also does some personal coaching. We talk about that. There's a lot in this episode, and I think, like me, you will all take a lot from it. So please, without further ado, let's get to the Greg Fischer interview. Hey, Greg, thanks so much for joining. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to start the conversation, and I think the audience is going to find it extremely valuable. So how are you today?
Hey, well, thanks, Charles. I'm so excited to be here. No, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm doing well.
Great. Greg, could you introduce yourself for the audience? Tell them a little bit about yourself before we get into it.
Yeah, sure. My name is Greg Fischer. I'm the co-founder of Pit BBQ. We are an all-natural rub and sauce company here in the great state of Wisconsin. Prior to that, I worked 10 years in the finance and insurance industry before I made my break. And then even before that, I was in the United States Marine Corps for 4 years, where I did multiple combat operations to Iraq during that time in between 2002 and 2006.
Thanks for that, Greg. Yeah, obviously many layers to you, Greg. And I'm not going to lie, what caught my eye, and probably for a lot of people, was barbecue. Who doesn't like barbecue, right? Then I started looking into it, and I really, really enjoy what you're doing on LinkedIn too. You are putting up some really valuable content. So we'll talk about that also. But maybe let's start. I have had multiple veterans on the show. Always interested to kind of start there with the military background, because I think it lays the foundation for a lot of what you've done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, thank you for allowing us veterans to have a voice too. So, I mean, for my story is probably similar to a lot of veterans that were in my era. I was a senior in high school when September 11th happened, and that ultimately paved my way and made my decision for me. So as soon as I graduated high school in 2002, I was off to basic training for the Marine Corps. And then shortly after, we were already involved heavily in Afghanistan, but then the Iraq War was starting to kick off. So I was assigned a battalion that was already in Kuwait, getting staged for the invasion of Iraq. So I met them in Kuwait, and I was part of that initial invasion from Kuwait to Baghdad with 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. And then after that, we made 2 more deployments back to Iraq, at least during my time. And at those additional deployments, I was on the western portions near the Syrian border, where we were trying to stop the flow of insurgents and foreign fighters coming in through Syria to some of those other cities that you might have heard of, like Ramadi and Fallujah and those kind of places.
And Greg, when you say about your stage and getting ready to go into Iraq, I believe, like what, especially being young, right? I can't even imagine. I mean, I am older than you, but even thinking back to when I was that age, like what goes through your mind as you're kind of preparing for that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, because essentially, I graduated boot camp, went to my infantry training, and then I was shipped overseas right away. So I had no time to prepare. I met my unit in Kuwait, so I was really the lowest, person on the totem pole, so to speak. Good and bad. good that I didn't have really a chance to think too much because somebody was always telling me what to do. But then also bad was, I was always the first one up, right? So, new guys, first one in the building, new guys, going for these working parties. So there's a lot placed on my shoulders, which, I'm grateful and thankful for the leaders that I had to help, guide me through that. But, I was 19 years old when that happened. And that was my first time out of the country. I was just kind of going off of instincts, what I was trained to do in the Marine Corps in boot camp, but then also what my leaders were teaching me along the way.
And Craig, when you say that being 19 at the time, I feel like sometimes a lot of people don't stop to think about that. Like when I think back to when I was 19, like I'd like to think going back that if I had to, I could have went and done that. But
Sure.
honestly, I don't think people really appreciate enough what is put on the shoulders of a lot of these young men and women who are going over there and doing what they're doing. So first off, thank you for that service. When you were over there, I see on your LinkedIn bio you say combat veteran. Did you see combat while you were over there firsthand?
Yeah, so I was an infantry battalion. That was my job, and that's kind of one of the reasons I went into the Marine Corps. Is I wanted to be, an infantry rifleman. So that was my job throughout my entire 4 years. So up through the invasion, from Kuwait to Baghdad, multiple skirmishes and things like that. But then after that, when we started getting we saw heavy insurgencies from other countries flooding into Iraq to try and influence. Those were probably the hardest ones. My second deployment comes to mind as one of those times where we lost, I think, 12 or 13 Marines during that time from my battalion, and more wounded. Myself, I was involved in an explosion. I ran over an anti-tank mine. So I saw some combat and 3 times being over there, I pressed my luck a little too much. So I decided to end my time in the Marine Corps and come back home here to Wisconsin.
Well, I'm glad that you made it back safe. That's good because I think a lot of what you're doing now is I'm really, really glad to have you because you're doing some really, really interesting things. Greg, now going back to your time with in the Marine Corps, what types of lessons, let's start here, what kind of lessons from your experience over there would you say have served you as you left the Marines and started your life outside of the military?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And I think about that a lot, actually. And number one is integrity. So they instill integrity into us right from day one, doing the right thing when nobody's watching, even if it might not be the most popular decision to do, or you might not feel like doing it, making sure that, even if nobody's watching, you're making the right decision. And number two is making those decisions, not being afraid to act, right? So we have, we train and we try and ingrain a lot of these tactics, in combat in my corporate career, being able to take action, and then adjusting along the way. Because not every action you take or every decision you make is going to be perfect. You have to adjust along the way and meet those challenges head on. So I think those two, integrity and then being able to act and then also adjust along the way, are probably 2 big ones that I've taken from my military experience and tried to incorporate them in my entire life.
And Greg, would you say from your experience in the military and as you left the military, you started I'll call it your professional career, have you noticed that for yourself, has I'll call it your stages of, say, leadership, have you noticed that you've grown and from your military experience to where you are now?
Oh yeah, it's a big difference. I mean, when I talk about my leaders in the military, they were 20, 21, 22 years old. Looking back now, they felt like they're so much older than me, but I was in that spot when I was getting ready to get out too. But I mean, you mature throughout your life. So, the experiences that I had at that point in time, when I was a young leader in the Marine Corps versus when I was a corporate leader, leading teams and managing teams, night and day difference between that Greg and the Greg, that was right here in front of you. Just because I've evolved, I've continued to learn and grow along the way. And I continue to do that. And I know the leader that I'll be in 10 years is a lot different from the leader that I am right now.
Yeah. And Greg, when does it kind of hit you? Because I see a lot that you're doing now. When does it kind of come into your head where you go, I've done the military experience, I've had kind of the professional experience, and I see a lot that you're doing now is you legit are looking to make, to me it looks like you're making an effort to just help other people, like things you post and things you're doing now. When did that start to become something that you were interested in?
Yeah, I mean, right when I left my corporate job in 2020, I knew I kind of wanted to share my journey. And I started on LinkedIn, and it was a lot of kind of more for me to share my thoughts because honestly, LinkedIn was a place where I continued, like before that, when I was working for my organization, I would go there and I would be an observer. I wasn't really a participant. Well, now I wasn't worried about what other people were going to think or say about, what I had to say and what my thoughts were. So I started putting it out there more. And what I found, quickly was that people that I used to work with or currently knew and had relationships with were feeling the same way that I was, but they just can't express that, because they're still in that environment, still maybe afraid of who sees that, and what they might think of and what might happen to their career if they say something. So really, I'm writing to myself, and then also people that might have been in my position felt how I felt at the end of my career in a corporate environment. That gave me confidence to continue to share my journey. And that's kind of what I've done throughout the past 2 years as I've launched my own business, is really share, one, what was my perspective as I quit my job, and what was I thinking and feeling at that time? But two, what have I learned along the way? Especially starting a small business in a pandemic and a so-called recession and all those kinds of things. So I really just share what I'm learning and also kind of what I'm feeling.
And Greg, I can just tell you from my experience, right? Like I said, again, I am older than you. I'm still in that corporate kind of environment, but you have definitely, especially over the last, I'd say month and a half, how long I've been like following you on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Even me, like I am absolutely reading what you post and it impacts me and I learn from it.
I appreciate that.
No, it's a great thing. And I myself, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to put my story out there and help people. So
Yeah.
people like you, I'm naturally attracted to. Greg, I want to get in more about your journey, the corporate world, and obviously what you're doing now. Before we get into that, though, hang tight. Quick word from NGBN. We'll be right back.
Hey, Charles, I just wanted to welcome you and all the Bear Essential listeners and watchers to NGBN.TV. My name is Chris Rubio, and I'm the host of The Rubio Method. We are a show about men's mental health that comes out every other Wednesday. Our latest episode just came out today, June 22nd. Then we'll have one in another 2 weeks. We already have 9 episodes out with myself and my co-host, Nick Monahan. We navigate the zone of men turning into middle age and going through health crises, whether it's mental, physical, and we have a good time while doing it. We tell a lot of funny stories. We have great interviews and guests, and it's just an all-around good time for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. So make sure you check out the Rubio Method as well on NGBN.TV, YouTube, Spotify, Google, and Amazon podcasts. And once again, from the Rubio Method to the Bear Essentials, welcome to NGBN.TV.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. So, Greg, we left off, we talked a lot about the military experience. Obviously, that's probably set the foundation for you. Let's talk a little bit after the military. Let's talk a little bit about the corporate journey that you were on and how that, led to where you are now.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, after 4 years of the military of high chaos, I came back home to Wisconsin. I decided to use my GI Bill and go to school. So I went to a local school here for 4 years. But then I knew at least I thought I knew what I wanted to do afterwards. And I started an internship with a local, large organization that's well known in the area of finance and insurance. And I started working my way through that. So I did some advisory stuff. And then I found my way to their corporate headquarters, where I spent the next 10 years working my way around from being an individual contributor to a leader, to ultimately at the end, they're helping to develop new leaders. So throughout that time, I got a chance to learn more about myself and grow as a professional and establish relationships. But also I got to kind of learn again, maybe some of the things I didn't want to do. And at the end there, I saw, I had some ideas and thoughts about a business I wanted to start, and I knew that if I didn't do it now, back in 2020, like I'd probably never do it. So I made the pivot and decided to leave the stability for small business ownership.
And Craig, some people that do that when they start the business, I hear some people say, well, I wish I would have made that decision a lot sooner.
Right.
When I read some of the things you post, though, and I want to ask you this, would you say that you kind of had to go through I'll call it your corporate experience to get you to the point, and you've learned valuable lessons that have helped you to build your business now?
Yeah, absolutely. As I kind of reflect back on that time, I'm really grateful for my organization and the relationships I built with my leaders and my peers. Because within that organization, I had the opportunity to move around to try different things, to I work on myself, and then a lot of those learnings helped me be prepared to make that jump and take that leap. But at the same time, I'll say, like, nobody tapped me on the shoulder and offered me those opportunities while I was in, my organization. I had to go out and find those things. I had to go out and be resourceful and ask and, pester my leaders to send me to, this course, or, let me go to these things. So while I'm grateful that they offered me the opportunity to do and grow that way, there was still a lot of ownership of myself to continue to grow and get better. And that ultimately continues to propel me here into what I'm doing now.
And Craig, I have to ask, because just recently I had another former Marine on, Chris Bentley, and
Okay. Yeah.
the same word, resourceful.
Yeah.
What is it with the Marines, like, and your career, like what? Like it seems like that's ingrained in you guys. What's your take on that, about the resourcefulness that you guys had to kind of, it almost sounds like you had to be that way within the Marines.
Yeah, well, I mean, anybody who's ever been in the Marine Corps or any military knows that the Marines maybe are at the bottom when it comes to equipment and funding and all that kind of stuff. So, we had to make do with what we had, especially in those combat environments. Early on, I remember just after the war in Iraq was so-called over, that's when we started seeing more IEDs, explosives. We didn't have up armored vehicles at the time. So what we do is we take scrap metal and we put them on the bases of the Humvees and, the doors and stuff like that. So, we've always had to be resourceful, working with what we had, and doing the best that we could. So, those types of examples, obviously it's not as life or death when you go into a corporate environment or, something else that's more structured in civilian world. But those kind of thoughts and being able to work with less and make do with what you have and still be successful, I mean, those characteristics will always be ingrained in us no matter what we do.
And early on, Craig, when we started talking, you mentioned about your career in the military, and I'm sure in your professional career, but you mentioned about integrity being one of the biggest things. This is one of the discussions we had, and I've been thinking about this a lot. To me, it's a fine line, right, where you have integrity and resourcefulness. Have you ever found it within your career where it's that real gray area where you're being resourceful but have to remain, have your integrity intact? Have you found that to be a bit of a double-edged sword?
Yeah, I mean, there's always, checks and balances when you're dealing with, especially if you're dealing with high stress environments of, having to make sure that you meet your goals and all that kind of stuff. I'll say though, like, my integrity helps guide me with those types of decisions. And at the end of the day, I think I was probably a little bit more mature than maybe most of my peers, just because of the past experiences that I've had. At the same time, I'm not afraid to make decisions and maybe ask for forgiveness and not permission. So those help guide me along the way. But yeah, it's a fine balance of, making sure that I maintain my integrity, but also, make sure to move the mission forward and relying on those resources that I have. Yeah, so I guess that's the best answer I can give you. I don't have really too many examples I could think of where I had to kind of compromise. But no, it's a great question.
Yeah, no, that's something that, I've learned in my career too. What I do is, that's something we always talk about is we'll ask for forgiveness, instead of permission.
Yeah.
So you're working through the corporate environment. As far as starting your own company, is it something that is over time, or is it more spur of the moment? Like, how's it start to evolve?
Yeah. Well, I actually had a conversation where I had kind of a little bit of enlightening for myself was that I had been an entrepreneur kind of all while working through my corporate career because, I had started a nonprofit to help veterans with their resumes and getting careers and jobs in the Milwaukee area. 5 years prior, I had started selling products online, throughout my time and working for my organization. Um, all those things and those learnings helped me be again ready to make that decision when I was ready to jump, make it a lot easier to get all the things up and running that I knew I needed to have in place being a business. So it was a gradual over time, a lot of learnings with past failures of, online businesses and things I was trying to do on the side. But, everything came to kind of that point in 2020 where everything aligned where it was time to make the jump. And I felt confident with all those learnings that I've had to, give it a go all in.
And Greg, you mentioned failures.
Yeah.
I love to ask this of people. And I ask this of myself sometimes. Would you trade your failures in, or would you look at it and say, I had to have those failures, otherwise this version of Greg wouldn't exist?
Yeah. I mean, I would never trade those failures in. No matter how painful they might be. There are some moments in life I wish I could take back, but the version that came out of that and the learnings that came out of that, helped, future Greg, a lot. So, I'll say that, I probably wouldn't, go back and change any of those things because all those things led me up into this point right now. And I'm pretty happy with the circumstances. And I know going forward, just by nature, that I'm going to fail some more. And I'm not afraid of that. So I think a lot of people are afraid to take risks because of that fear of failure. I just, over time, that's been a muscle I've developed where I'm not afraid to take that risk and fail because I know I'm just going to learn from it and move on. So no, I wouldn't go back and change.
It's a great attitude. So now you talk about risk, and you mentioned a little bit ago about you being more mature. Looking at your LinkedIn and some of the things you post, it kind of struck me when you said mature, because when I read something you posted, it was a few days ago, I would say, but you were basically giving a blueprint for people of have these things in place before you make that jump. Because, and I think you would agree with this, I see a lot on LinkedIn, Facebook, social media. You see a lot of people just saying like, the hell with it, jump.
Yeah.
Right. I think the way you put that out there, it was a very structured, mature approach. And I'd like to, if you could talk the audience through that, because I think that is extremely valuable for people. There needs to be a maturity about it. It can't be just like all in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I've kind of changed over the past 2 years because I went from, I jumped and then I started writing about that. And as I took a step back, I just kind of reminded myself that not everybody can do that. It's not feasible for everybody just to quit their job and start a business. So, I really wrote out what made me confident enough to go out and do that. One is ultimately a vision. I'm very big on, visioning techniques, vision boards, writing out my vision and doing visualization exercises every day. So that was number one. I think the second one on there was having, savings. For me, I had enough savings that I'd planned out and that I could live off of those savings for a while I let my business get up and running because I wasn't generating income yet from that. So that's big. I know some other people talk about having that side stream income already coming in, with your side business before you quit. Well, I took a different approach. I had been a good saver. And, we're told to save in case of an emergency. Well, for me, my emergency was that I was miserable in my job. And I knew it was costing me my health and my relationship. So I saw that as a personal emergency. So I tapped into that fund. And then the few other points that I put on there was having honest conversations, one with myself. I had to be honest with myself that I was miserable. And then I had to have honest conversations with my spouse because I was the main breadwinner. I have a family, a young family, and the benefits were through me and my employer. So after having those honest conversations, we came to a point where it just made sense where let's take this chance. Let's go and do this. It couldn't be worse than it is right now. Worst case scenario, I go back and I get a job, right? So that's how we looked at it through that. And then the last piece, like health insurance. Health insurance in America, especially, is a huge concern, especially for me, with 3 young boys that are very accident prone and, are known by the first names, and the ER is all across, southeastern Wisconsin. I had to have conversations with people in that arena that were experts in health insurance in the private market. And once I did that and I saw it was affordable to me, it gave me all the confidence in the world that I could go and make this happen. So those were kind of really the 4 things I think I put out there. And ultimately, those were the 4 steps that helped me feel confident in leaving my stable corporate job behind to go and pursue this passion that I have and try this small business thing out.
As thoughtfully as you just laid that out, it really tells me a lot, though. Like it shows, like, honestly, like in your whole online persona, what you write, and you're practicing what you preach. I'll just add this. I saw somebody thanking you for your vision board just recently. So your willingness to help others and to put a lot of this, what you say, into practice and try to help others is commendable. All right. So now let's
appreciate that.
No, yeah, no worries. So, all right, let's get into it now. So Burn Pit BBQ.
Yeah.
How many times were you told no?
I get told no every day. Especially like when we reach out, we're trying to expand our retail partnerships and things like that. I have a goal of, 5 new business contacts a day, and, maybe one comes back and says, yes, we'll give it a shot, or, we'll try your samples or whatever. So yeah, I'm getting told no every day. Early on when we were first starting out, we had no idea how we were going to make money. Essentially we started off as a blog because we wanted to help people learn how to grill and smoke meats, because we saw during the pandemic, more people were buying grills and smokers because they could not go out to restaurants at that time. So, I've been doing it in my backyard with my buddies for, over a decade. So we wanted to see if we could help people through that. And then eventually we started to develop how are we going to make money from this? So naturally it was kind of rubs, sauces, and seasonings. But yeah, since then, we get told no all the time, whether it's retail partners, whether it's people that, sample our stuff and don't like it. That's okay. It's, people that don't like our recipes or don't like how we barbecue because it's not authentic barbecue or whatever. So we run into that stuff all the time. And like I said, those things are like a muscle. You build it over time. It can be scary at first, but once you get into it, and we've been doing this for 2 years now, we can brush it off pretty easily and move on to the next one, because we know the next yes is going to be out there. And we've found that to be true time and time again.
Greg, when I look behind you and I see some of the boxes, I see some of the product, the logo, right? My mind, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So where do you start? Like, how? Like, I see kind of the final product now. Like, it's not that way in the beginning. Where do you guys start?
No, yeah. So, one, again, like, we did a lot of brainstorming. Okay, what do we envision this brand to be? And for us, we want to be the premier barbecue brand in the state of Wisconsin initially, eventually in America. But for us to start off, we knew we had to start small. We wanted to dominate our backyard. So that's where we focus here right now. But then number 2 is, okay, we have these ideas about bottling, about, getting our recipes, because we know we didn't want to be in the kitchen, because we needed to develop this brand. So we wanted to partner with somebody. So we did a lot of research on co-packers in the state of Wisconsin. It was very important for us to keep our products made here in Wisconsin. So a lot of research, a lot of times, a lot of days, a lot of hours spent finding the co-packer that could help us bottle our stuff for us. And then from there, it's just testing. It's going back and forth with them. What can they do for us? What kind of ingredients, how does that process work? Because we had no idea. And that's how we learned along the way. And we kind of figured it out. And now we got these products in. Okay, now how do we sell it? Who's going to buy it, right? So we started, giving samples away. We started reaching out to people. We started going to events as soon as they started opening back up in 2021. And we found that we got the most feedback and the most in-person touches when we were, face to face with people. So it's gradual. Like we never expected that. We never expected events to be some of our highest earning days because it just wasn't on our radar. We thought we'd just sell rubs and sauces online and then send it, sell it in stores. But, in-person events like fairs, craft fairs, barbecue fests, like those types of things have been like some of our best days because not only the people we meet, but then also getting our products in front of new audiences. So it's just learning along the way. And we didn't know how to do it when we first started. We continue to learn and grow and evolve with every step as we continue to grow.
And see, as you explained that, this is why you'll never see the Bear Essentials barbecue, because I was envisioning Greg with an apron and a chef hat mixing product together, right? Like I didn't even think about some of the other things that would have to go into that. So kudos to you guys. So are you mainly online now at this point?
Well, we started online. So we have our website, burnpitbbq.com. We also sell our rubs on Amazon. But our focus is to continue to spread our brand throughout the state of Wisconsin. So we are in 32 local, retail shops here in Wisconsin and Northern Illinois. So that's where we've been focused. We are kind of, as we continue to grow here, we're looking kind of more to spread nationally. So we are talking with larger distributors. So again, that's a process where I don't know much about, and I'm starting to learn a lot about it right now. But 2 years ago, I probably wasn't ready for that conversation. 2 years now I am. So we are continuing to develop our partnerships in stores, but primarily a lot of what we do is online through our websites and then through Amazon and then also in-person events. So you can find us throughout the state of Wisconsin all summer long at multiple events, selling our products and just having a good time.
Yeah, and I'll definitely make sure to put some of the links in the show notes and things like that. So Greg, at this point for you, your partners, I mean, is this it, right? Is this how you're supporting your family with this Burn Pit BBQ?
Not yet. So I will say we are at that point where we haven't started drawing income yet from the business because we've been reinvesting everything we've been earning back. But Q3 this quarter is the first one when we talked to our accountants and said, hey, we know we need to start making a draw here. So this will be the first quarter. So that we'll be taking a draw from the business. And how I support my family is I'll be completely honest that, I am a service disabled veteran. So I do get some compensation from the government for that. And my wife continues to work part-time in a career that she enjoys. So, and then through some savings still. So that's how I support my family. And then I also do some coaching and things like that on the side where clients pay me to coach them, high performers, things like that. And that's kind of how I'm doing it right now. But ultimately the goal is that this business continues to support the lifestyle that I have without any maybe of those other side income projects.
Well, congratulations. I wish you a lot of luck with that. It's good to hear that coming Q3, you're going to finally get to take a draw from it. And hopefully from that point, it'll just start to, go down, not downhill, but you know what I mean? It'll start to just keep building and you'll be able to take more and more. Interesting too, you mentioned about coaching. So let me ask you this. How would you, if you yourself, what advice would you give yourself? How would you coach yourself?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm very heavily involved in developing new habits and understanding habit loops. And the advice that I give myself is to stay consistent. It's the small daily actions every day that build up over time. And people talk about the analogy, you don't climb a mountain all at once, you climb it step by step. So that's what I'm finding, especially since I've really committed to developing habit-based, identity, is that the more that I do the little things, big things come my way. And it's not by chance, it's not by luck. It's because I'm putting in that time every day to do the things I need to do to drive my health, my family, my relationships, and my business forward. So that's advice I would probably, if I could go back 2 years and say, really focus on this piece, being, consistent every day with, the habits that you need to do to move the business forward. I would probably go back and tell myself that because I probably wasn't as, good at that as I am right now. But again, my business was in a different place. I was just trying to survive. Now I'm trying to thrive and grow. So my mind's in a different place too.
Greg, I honestly, man, I think you have a ton to offer in that space. I mean, seeing what you're doing and just listening to you, I wasn't sure that you were even doing that. And hearing that, I'm really happy because I think that will help a lot of people. So I hope that continues to be successful for you as you keep going with the barbecue and that. All right. So how can, barbecue coaching, floor is yours. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in our barbecue products, you just go out to burnpitbbq.com. You can find all of our information out there. If you're local to Wisconsin, we have a store locator too. You can see where all the stores that carry our products. You can also order online. Like if you're looking for more kind of a personal touch to me, you can find me at LinkedIn at Greg Fischer. And then also, Instagram. I've been trying to build my Instagram up a little bit. It's the real Greg Fischer. And that's where I LinkedIn and in my personal Instagram is where I really post a lot of the coaching and the things I learn along the way, teachings and things like that. So, if you're looking for more of a personal kind of development, growth mindset, those are the places I'd probably look if you want to connect with me there.
Great. And like I said, I'll make sure to add those, and I'll just add to this for you. Obviously, I hope a ton of people go out and check out your barbecue sauces and rubs.
Thank you.
Personally, I'm going to. Also, awesome. Though, on the coaching note, I really hope people seek you out because I can just tell you all from my experience with Greg so far, he puts a lot of valuable content up on LinkedIn, and it's the type of content that will absolutely help and make you better. So, Greg, it's been fantastic speaking with you. I'm looking forward to continue following you. So thank you so much for this. I'm happy that we got a chance to finally connect face to face, so to speak. And I can't wait to have others hear this and experience all that Greg Fischer has to offer. So thanks, Greg. Take care.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate the opportunity.
Take care. Bye.
This has been the Bear Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.